Andy Burnham has become the first Labour figure in years who looks capable of frightening Nigel Farage personally. And Farage understands that Makerfield is no longer a symbolic contest but a referendum on whether reform's momentum survives contact with a credible populist from the left. The battle goes beyond party loyalty altogether. Voters are no longer acting like inherited tribal blocs. They are demanding persuasion, emotional connection and proof. And so firstly, looking at the sheer panic beneath the surface of Reform's response, Nigel Farage keeps insisting Makerfield is a two-horse race. It is a two-horse race. Politicians only repeat phrases like that when they fear a third horse entering the track. And now there are multiple horses. Rupert Loki's Restore Britain movement, amplified by the complaints that he is letting Andy Burnham win, is threatening to fracture Reform's anti-establishment coalition. Farage knows the danger perfectly well. Reform's entire strategy relies on consolidating grievance. Anger must flow in one direction if it's going to be effective. And now Burnham is absorbing part of that anger himself. He is speaking the language of buses, local pride, class frustration, regional neglect and Westminster contempt, and those themes once belonged almost entirely to Reform UK. That explains Farage's anxiety, because Burnham is not confronting reform from the old Blairite centre. He's not speaking in managerial slogans about stakeholder engagement and fiscal protection. He is attempting something much more dangerous for Reform. He is trying to reclaim populism for Labour. And the polling matters enormously here. The more in common figures show Burnham's Labour leading Reform by 3 points. That is psychologically devastating for Farage's project. Reform has spent months cultivating the aura of inevitability, and suddenly one Labour politician appears and the aura flickers. The Burnham bounce suggests Labour defectors might return if they feel somebody is speaking to them about identity, locality and social dignity again. Secondly, Burnham's political style matters as much as his politics. Critics might mock the carefully casual clothing, the Everton shirts, the Northern cadence, the Greg's imagery. Tom Harris described the whole thing as patronising, deceptive and very, very clever. And in truth, it's as clever as Harold Wilson's pipe. But in truth, Harris accidentally explains why Burnham is effective. Politics is theatre and image as much as it is administration. Farage understands this better than almost anyone. Think of his pint. He's built an entire career from pub aesthetics, cigarettes, pints, railway stations and anti-metropolitan swagger. Burnham is now competing on emotional symbolism rather than technocratic detail, and that is why this contest terrifies Reform, because Burnham occupies a strange political territory. He looks anti-Westminster while being deeply embedded within Labour. He sounds local while operating nationally. He speaks with enough ambiguity to attract both old Labour voters and culturally conservative defectors. Farage's difficulty is simple. His entire movement depends on being the outsider voice of forgotten England. Burnham suddenly arrives saying, "No, I know these places too," and unlike many Labour figures, people believe him. And that belief matters more than ideology. Burnham's bus franchising in Greater Manchester became politically important, not because bus reform is glamorous, but because people saw tangible change. Buses arrived more reliably, routes improved, prices stabilised, and in an age when governments promise abstraction, small practical competence becomes politically radioactive. Farage excels at identifying grievances. Burnham is attempting to show operational delivery, and that combination alarms Reform strategists. Thirdly and finally, this goes far beyond loyalty now. British politics has emerged into an age of persuasion politics. The old structures are collapsing. The Conservative Labour duopoly perhaps, has fractured. The Reform has risen, Greens have risen, Liberal Democrats survive. It's like a garden full of weeds, isn't it? Voters drift constantly. Tribal inheritance no longer guarantees obedience. People have to trim their lawn. People demand convincing every election, and that changes everything. Burnham understands this better than many Labour MPs. Well, the tribalism has moved into a different area. The tribalism has, of course, moved into social media. And Labour MPs, they're trapped in the psychological ruins of the 1990s. And Burnham knows people no longer vote because their grandfather worked in a mine or because their parents hated Thatcher. They vote emotionally, culturally, situationally. They might even vote to keep somebody out. Farage knows this too, which is why both men are now competing for the same emotional territory, for dignity, frustration, belonging, patriotism, resentment of London-centred politics, and the feeling that ordinary people disappeared from elite political conversation. And here lies the deeper anxiety for Farage. Burnham threatens to split the anti-establishment mood from the left, and in the same way that Farage split it from the right. If Burnham succeeds, reform's path narrows dramatically because Farage's coalition is less stable than people imagine. Part of it is libertarian, part of it is culturally conservative, part economically interventionist, part anti-immigration, part anti-elite, part simply furious with everything and anything. Burnham is trying to peel away the economically interventionist and the socially rooted sections of that coalition, and he's doing so emotionally, and that is why this Makerfield by-election matters so much. Luke Trill described it as one of the highest stakes in by-election history. He's probably correct. This is not only about one constituency, it's about whether Labour finds a post-Starmer identity before reform completes its insurgency. And Farage's nervousness betrays something important. For years he has dominated because opponents treated him either as a clown or a fascist, and because he was working in a vacuum. Burnham treats him as a political rival whose voters possess legitimate frustrations. And Burnham, of course, demonstrates that the vacuum has now got